This episode of the RRC Canada podcast is brought to you by Kubota. When hay season hits, every hour in the field counts, and Kubota hay tools are built to make the most of them. With mowers, tedders, rakes, balers, wrappers, mergers, and more, Kubota has the equipment to keep your operation moving. Head to Kubota.ca and click Agriculture to explore the full lineup. Welcome to the Rural Roots Canada podcast. I'm your host, Tim Parent. This week, we have an in-depth interview with Andrea Brocklebank, the new CEO of the Canadian Cattle Association. It's been an exciting and intense transition into the role for Andrea, who brings her experience as a researcher with the Beef Cattle Research Council and as a rancher near High River, Alberta, to the position. And there's no shortage of priorities ahead for the CCA, including key policy files, strengthening industry partnerships, and working closely with provincial stakeholders on major issues facing producers. But I kicked off our conversation asking her a simple question. How has the job been going so far?
It's drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot. No, in all seriousness, it's an honor to be here and to work on behalf of the industry. And I've been involved with the Canadian Cattle Association through my previous role as Executive Director of the Beef Cattle Research Council. So very familiar with the organization, just a new and different role.
Perfect. Tell me a little bit about your background as a researcher with the BCRC and as an Alberta rancher and how that helps with your new role now.
Yeah, so I was born and raised near High River, Alberta. We have a mixed operation with beef animals and crop, and loved being raised on a farm anyways, went away to school and did a background in actually agriculture economics. So not directly animal science type research or plants, but, and that kind of long story brought me to the Beef Cattle Research Council and the work I did there and building that agency from what was originally a half-time position with me to the delivery of research and extension now with a large team there, thanks to building partnerships with funding from our provincial members as well as the government. So through that, we also continued we moved back to our operation in 2015, and we're thrilled to be able to raise our two teenage boys on the operation and grass cattle here, as well as do a crop share with our neighbor, which allows us the opportunity to still farm, but also work our full-time job. So it's a good mix. But yeah, my kids are heavily involved in 4-H. So we have also on the side a small herd of very entitled 4-H cows.
So no shortage of things that keep you busy, that's for sure.
Yes, yeah. And CEO can be a big role and people have thoughts about that title, but I think for me it's really valuable to still be connected to primary production and have that perspective of, what producers deal with on the day-to-day through our own operation, but even through my connection with other producers.
How has the transition been so far, the gradual roll into the move over the last few months?
Very good. I've received a lot of support for coming into this role and excitement for me to step into it. And, I don't take the expectations lightly. There's a lot to work on between the policy issues that we deal with on a regular basis, as well as, dynamics with our stakeholders and particularly ABPs, Alberta beef producers, and the potential withdrawal. And that's a big one for us. So, I think what's been helpful for me is I might not know the line by line details of everything particular to CCA policy, but I know what questions to ask and I know the people, and so much of how we proceed, I think, successfully is based on stakeholder engagement and partnerships. And, I've worked with the provinces very, very closely through my previous role and will continue. And so I think that there's some value there that I bring.
Just sort of to circle back a little bit to those relationships with ABP in particular and mending that fence. Are you optimistic that you'll be able to get them to re-up their membership or have those conversations to sort of mend that fence?
I'm optimistic. I think, everybody recognizes, and I say everybody being all the provinces, recognize the need for a strong national organization. And when ABP put forward their withdrawal, all of the provinces came together as members and said, we need to form a working group because there's things that ABP's requested, but there's other things that other provinces might want as well. And, I think that was the best outcome, honestly, because it ensures that meaningful discussion of what they want CCA to look like and deliver is done in a collaborative manner and consensus-based manner instead of one province or another telling them what to do. And, from an incoming person, obviously it's a bit daunting to have that on the plate. But I think, honestly, it's also a really good position to have all your members working together to, in essence, deliver a plan. And so the timing is, they're continuing to work through that and we're starting to engage in the process. And I think at the end of the day, if there's consensus that they recognize the value of a national organization and we need to tweak what it looks like, we'll make it through.
We'll have more with our conversation with the new CEO of the CCA, Andrea Brocklebank, in a moment. This Rural Roots Canada podcast is powered by Kubota.
If you make hay, you know what's really in charge, the weather. So when you have a good window, it's go time, and you need equipment that helps you move fast, stay consistent, and avoid downtime. This episode is sponsored by Kubota Canada hay tools. From disc mowers and conditioners to tedders, rakes, mergers, round balers, wrappers, and more, it's a lineup built around the stuff that pays you back in season. That means clean cutting, terrain adaptability, and durability to go the distance. And because reliability isn't optional, Kubota backs it up with Canadian commitment. More than 50 years in Canada, plus a dealer network that's locally owned and ready to help when the season doesn't wait. That kind of dealer support means you're never far from people who understand the unique conditions your operation faces. And for extra peace of mind, all Kubota hay tools are backed by a 2-year factory warranty. Kubota Canada. Find the link in the show notes for more.
And now back to my conversation with Andrea Brocklebank, the new CEO of the Canadian Cattle Association. Another issue that's come up over the last few weeks, I guess, is the pushback on traceability with the CFIA. What are you hearing with the surveys from producers, and what do you have planned to make sure that producers' voices are heard on this issue?
Yeah, I think on that one in particular, I mean, it kind of the groundswell started before I was into this role, but obviously I've been engaged and we've heard from producers. I mean, we've heard the groundswell that says we have concerns and we need to make sure that we look at this closely and that it works for the industry and for producers. And, I think the provincial dialogues that have happened have been very helpful because, our job is to extract the themes out of that and determine how to move forward with the provinces because we are not going to move in isolation on this one. And so, there's definitely some themes, concerns around what CFIA is proposing and the practicality of some of it, and also even, how it would be delivered under the CCIA, the Cattle Identification Agency. And so our job is to now take all of that and make sure that we clearly understand the core themes and whether it's a regulatory issue or an implementation issue, because there's kind of, I would almost say, two buckets. And, what that looks like, I can't speak to that yet. We're having a forum of all of the provinces in next week as part of our 2 weeks from now as part of the AGM. And I think that will be a very important discussion to define that path forward from a policy perspective. But even from how we engage with the CFIA on this and move forward, I think it's noted that CFIA paused. That's not normal for them in terms of where they were at with the Canada Gazette process. And that's a good indicator that they're also listening and they realize that they needed to do that. And they're very much looking to industry to seek our recommendations at this point. So hence why it's going to be really important that all of the provinces come together and we bring forward something that we can take back to industry, but also take forward to government.
I guess my last question for you, Andrea, there's a lot of internal pressures, a lot of external pressures on the cattle industry. Where do you see it headed in Canada, perhaps for the rest of the year or just moving forward in general?
Well, the future is bright. I mean, you look at record high cattle prices and opportunity and strong beef demand and global strong beef demand. So there's more market opportunity. And I think also industry's done a good job of changing the dialogue to create more recognition of why beef is an important part of our production system in Canada. There's a lot more understanding of the importance of grasslands and biodiversity. And so those are all really positive things. But, I think we're very cognizant. I mean, market access is one of the biggest ones. In this coming year, we have the renegotiation of the Canada-US-Mexico Free Trade Agreement. And, with 70% of our exports going to the US market, this is significant to us. And so it's going to be one. And we've had a lot of volatility in terms of our US relationships. So I think that's one that we're going to be working on very closely because we can't afford to lose what we have there in terms of access. But we're also focused, the government's provided pretty big signals on market diversification. So we're looking at what other opportunities exist for the industry, because ultimately any growth in the industry, which we're starting to see small expansion of the beef cow herd and recovery, is dependent on, growth in demand and making sure that there's opportunity for producers.
Have you had any conversations with stakeholders about CUSMA at all? And obviously, it's about to get underway, those negotiations. And are you hearing maybe concerns from producers about that? I mean, you've already addressed it, but I'm just curious maybe if you've heard anything specific.
I think most producers are aware of it, which shows you that they understand the importance of it. And I think everyone understands, broader than even the beef industry, but so much of agriculture and even other sectors are dependent on a strong US-Canada trading relationship. So I think the interesting point is our US stakeholders are also very aware of it. Some of the, decisions made by the current government in the US has made them probably more aware of the impacts of tariffs on their sector and, whether it's potash and the huge costs that meant to US producers. But even the fact that we have become a net importer of feeder cattle. And so suddenly the US understands that they need that outlet for their animals coming into Canada. So we spend a lot of time, talking to our U.S. producer partners to make sure that we're talking the same language as them, because they honestly have more influence with their government than we do. We do work with the U.S. government as well, but I think it's important that very consistent messaging is our goal. But yeah, from a producer standpoint, most producers just want to ensure that they have trade certainty. Nobody likes volatility in the market, and that's what uncertainty brings.
United front is going to be key moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Andrea, is there anything else that you would like to add, anything that I haven't asked you?
No, I'm just excited. It's an honor to work in the new role for our beef producers across the country and our provincial members. And, no shortage of priorities and challenges to take on, but a privilege to work for an industry that I truly love and I'm happy to be involved in.
That was my conversation with Andrea Brocklebank, the new CEO of the Canadian Cattle Association. That's it for this episode of the Rural Roots Canada podcast, sponsored by Kubota. Choosing the right equipment for your hay operation is a big decision, so Kubota's dealer network is there to help you get it right. Whether you're looking at mowers, balers, or a complete hay tool setup, your local Kubota dealer can walk you through the options. Head to Kubota.ca and click Find a Dealer to connect with an expert near you. I'm Tim Parent. Thanks for listening.